Hi, I'm Dennis Weiss. Welcome to Our Town and a combined version of Abilene Means Business. James Holland, the Executive Director of the Abilene Area Chamber of Commerce and the host of that show, Abilene Means Business. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm terrific.
Great.
And I'm the host of Our Town. And James and I talked about this a few weeks ago, and we're filming on the last week of December here.
That's great.
And we thought we'd do a 2016 wrap-up and what 2017 looks from our perspective, from Our Town and Abilene Means Business, and we thought we'd have that conversation and hope you enjoy it. So we're filming in the Abilene Public Library, and behind us is a special bookshelf full of rare books that you can check out should you wish. And I thought, okay, 2016 wrap up. So here's the beauty of Abilene, Kansas in this library. You can walk over and in 30 seconds, as you can testify, pick out 3 titles that are appropriate for a 2016 wrap-up. So 2016, I would posit that a story of a secret state.
Story of a secret state.
Might have something to do with 2016 wrap-up and 2017.
Certainly the end part of 2016.
Yes,
Since November.
we'll get into that.
Yeah.
The War for Man's Soul. Now, that's applicable to every year, right?
Any number of things.
But we'll work that into the conversation. You can check that book out here. And you need to know, from my lips comes truth occasionally, on accident, on purpose, and grace solves it all. Now that's Grace Kelly on the cover, right?
Yes, it is. Yes.
But grace is the cure for the war for man's soul and solves the problems of the story of a secret state. So now we got to weave all of that into a fantastic time in Abilene, Kansas, and wrapping up 2016. It was an interesting year, wasn't it?
It was ups and downs. I think it's, I would just, in positing looking back, I would say that the table is set for good things in 2017.
Would agree.
Not that they really occurred in 2016. It was kind of a leveling off and a slow incline towards positive things, both social and economic.
Yeah, I would agree. As from Our Town perspective, you know, I think economic development in small town America is always like baseball. Championships are won with singles with the occasional big swing and playing good defense, right? Yeah. So, you know, I think Abilene has done a good job of getting itself into position to take advantages of a couple of big swings.
Yeah.
And here we are, and then things look, 2016 was a pretty solid year for Abilene, Kansas in that regard.
Yeah, and I've talked to, you know, with the year ending, a lot of people are looking at their numbers from their businesses, and the general consensus I'm hearing is that it was not a banner growth year, but there certainly wasn't a lot of decline, at least in when I say incomes, I mean gross income. Right. Some of the expenses on the tax and insurance side have hurt some small businesses,
right,
and just individuals. I mean, you look at property taxes and insurance rates, and it's the overhead of being in existence is increasing all the time, it seems. But the positive side is that it seems like businesses were, you know, their gross income was stable, if not ticked up a bit.
Okay, so we've got, we're a town of 6,500, pretty close, right?
Yeah.
In a county of?
About 19 to 20.
19 to 20,000 people.
Yep.
We sit on I-70 between Salina and Junction City, Manhattan. So that's a glass half full, half empty.
Yeah,
right?
It is. Very much so.
It can be okay. All of our business can easily go either way.
Yeah.
Or we can do a good job of lifting ourselves up and attract business from a pretty good population base on both sides of it.
That's true.
That's the view I prefer to hold.
Yeah.
But here we are. We've done pretty good. You know, our business, I think we're going to close out with another record year at Eagle Communications, company-wide, both radio and broadband. You know, the final number's not done yet, but it looks like it's going to be that way.
Yeah.
But it was a tough year, right? our industry has been under tremendous pressure from the governmental sector.
Yep.
You know, business runs on predictability. Our predictability in the broadband industry is to wake up and see what the FCC has done this week and what Congress has done or not done to stop or influence that decision.
Yes.
You know, I don't know that anybody, any Main Street business would feel good waiting to see what the federal government's going to do about your business. Well, that's 2016 for us.
Yeah.
That's not a position we want to be in, but the only way we have of influencing that is elections, just ordinary citizen to a chunk, how we vote. So we voted in 2016.
Yep, we did.
It was a tumultuous election period, don't you think?
Aren't they all, though?
Yeah,
It seems like they all are.
Yeah.
And everybody always compares, you know, that
There
this
were no
election
duels.
was dirtier than this previous. Yeah, nobody got shot.
Nobody
or,
got shot.
Or stabbed, right?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
But, yeah.
It's all relative. That,
you know,
that tumultuous
it's
comment,
not
right?
It's not a Hamilton Burr thing, but but it was a Clinton Trump thing,
Yes,
which
it was.
you know the outcome was really interesting in that just the polarization of the coast versus the rest of the country has just become even more evident through all of this, and you know those media sectors that are obviously East Coast, West Coast based. You know, when you live in a bubble and you don't get outside, you know, your judgment isn't always the best. But that's, you know, and that just kind of proved itself out, which is it's going to be very interesting. We were kind of mentioning off air that, you know, sometimes there's always fear of the unknown. Well, in this case, it was fear of the known,
Right.
That I think led a lot of people to say, look, we don't care what change looks like, let's just have it.
Yeah.
And so that's why we are where we are. And interestingly enough, at least, you know, the investment community seems to be very upbeat about what's coming next year. And you know, and people talk about Wall Street. Well, Wall Street trickles down to Main Street
Sure
because,
does.
you know, everybody that's retired has got some money.
How many
in
investment
there.
businesses do we have in Abilene?
Oh, yeah.
That's Wall Street.
Yeah, we got
So
Yeah.
that business on our Main Street won't do well if money can't be made.
any company that has
invested
a 401k for their employees
Sure.
locally. You know, they're all seeing it and feeling it, and that's you know, and it can be based on speculation, but at least the trend and the optimism is there. And oddly enough, economics is some cases based as much on feeling as it is actual data. You know,
Well, we're humans.
Yeah.
Our optimism determines in some part our outcomes.
Yes.
And that falls into the economy as well.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, people talk about consumer confidence, the measure of consumer confidence. That metric is nothing other than what we think, what people think.
That's right. Yeah.
But it's a critical factor in how the economy does, because the confidence of people on what the future looks like will drive their buying, spending, investment patterns undeniably.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, one of the really positive things that I've seen is in visiting with local manufacturers, you know, and I'm not talking about the big boys necessarily, but you know, locally, you know, Briarton Engineering, Abrasive Blast, Rawhide Corral, to lesser extent Abilene Machine,
Thunderstruck.
Yeah, Thunderstruck, yes, and of course with Kubota purchasing the local Land Pride, there was some angst about that, but.
Right.
But in talking with the plant managers and the owners of those businesses, you know, it was a good year. You know, orders were up, you know, staffing was up, and in some cases, and I've talked about this lots of times on the show, skilled labor was hard to find, and when you
Right.
got it, you tried to keep it. And so, in just looking at the orders locally that have been placed and their staffing levels, and they're all very positive and upbeat about how 2016 was. And let's hope that all carries over to next year.
So we're an ag state.
We're an ag state. Yep.
I grew up farming, ranching. I have my Wranglers and my boots on today for a reason, and that is I think that's what 2017 all of us need to do, which is
You're gonna
suit
go
up, boot up.
You're going to go mend fences 2 days
Yeah,
before
well,
the new
get
year?
some stuff done. Get some stuff done,
Good.
right? So the reality of it is I visit with farmers all the time. I have close friends that are their entire livelihood is dependent on the ag market.
Yeah.
My uncle in New York, he's 87, still farming, and so we talk. Commodity prices are probably adjusted dollars at an all-time low.
Right.
Farm income, as currently measured, a net farm income is way down. So how do you have a good 2016 when that's true? My farmer buddy Jerry Luthai said it's real simple. He said we got lucky and had huge production.
Right. Yeah.
So, that's not a bankable event, huge production.
No.
So we as the CTI, I'm sure, down at Concordia Tractor, the big green tractors and
Yep.
combines sitting down at the south end of town, I'm sure they would like to see the commodity prices go back up. I would too.
Yeah. Yeah.
The net, Jerry and Luthai was talking to me about this as we were having a sandwich during deer season, and he goes, there's 4 cents worth of wheat in that loaf of bread. Mm-hmm. And so, but that's been true for a long time.
Yeah.
So we know in Kansas that when farmers do well, investment spreads out into our local communities and everything does better. When I used to work with county governments a lot, their big concern was how the ag industry was doing, mm-hmm. because that meant everything to Main Street business. Well, it does. It's still true today.
Yeah.
Yet we said in Abilene this year, we completed a $25 million school project.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Our hospital's only 2 years old from brand new.
Yep.
And it's a terrific facility and still doing well. Not that there aren't struggles to meet the needs of the community, and they adjust just like every business does, but it's doing well. Mm-hmm. Look up and down Main Street. You're the guy who always is telling our business community, you need to look better. You need to look better.
Yeah.
So, but our Main Street is improving all the time. People are looking better. People are doing things. People are investing in our historic downtown, despite historical low commodity price. So for me, in the economic sense, that says, our community has a pretty good balance where we can weather the storms that will and do come.
And just be thankful for that river of money called I-70,
Yeah.
that comes through here for the retailers and some of those types of, the tourism, the travel, the hotels, those types of things, gas stations. But, there are a lot of our, the ag community and the ag support businesses, they see these cycles all the time.
Sure.
So they kind of know, and they adjust their plans accordingly. And I know that there's a number of ag support businesses locally that do have some investment plans in their plant and equipment. And those are just kind of being pushed along the timeline a little later because of the commodity prices,
Right.
like you say. But and then as far as the public improvements, we in Abilene, in the last 20 years, we've updated every major public facility except the administration, and maybe the Public Works Department, mm-hmm. and the Civic Center and the parking lot there and that type of thing.
Right.
But all the major functions have been updated in the last 20 years. Water plant, sewer plant,
Right.
Rec center, all those things. And we're sitting in a pretty good position to pay some of those things off in the next 20 years and get the useful life and do maintenance, move to maintenance instead of building. Mm-hmm. And I think long term that's going to be a positive thing and will hopefully bring some of those property values and sales taxes down to where we're competitive in the region. Our sales taxes started creeping up there a little bit.
Right there on the edge.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And property taxes are fairly high, but I think those strategic investments have been made, and if we watch our elected officials and our dimes here and there, we can bring that down a little bit. It is also encouraging to to see that the city and county are looking at a joint justice center.
Would agree.
The police department is one facility that's definitely needed a lot of work, and figuring out how to work together and make that happen. From my vantage point and the chamber's vantage point is just going to be a positive thing for the community to work together.
I would agree. We've had these conversations, and including on camera with the sheriff and the chief of police, and then all those people and the city manager. I don't give my point of view as an architect because I'm not, or even a community development person because I'm not. It's just, I kind of reversed that and I said, I think as a taxpayer, it needs to be proven to me why not working together is a better idea. And I think both bodies have done their due diligence to do the dance until enough people got in the room to sit down and talk about that. And, I fairly intimately know the problems both in the law enforcement portion of the building next door to us and the jail as it sits in the county courthouse, and both have to be addressed at some point, and so it's imperative we do it wisely. But I think the governing bodies are on a good track to make the best decision they can there.
Yep. And in timelines, while one side seems to have a more definite timeline, when you're dealing with things that you hope have a useful life for 60 to 70 years, a year or two here and there in the timeline is not going to make that big of a difference. For the long term, it's better to really hash this thing out completely. We like to, some people don't like to defer these things any longer than you have to, but the conversation's gone far enough at this point, and there are enough positive steps being made that it will happen. There will be some investments in those facilities. Now, what it looks like, we don't know yet, but just let the plan cook long enough, and you'll get the best result out of it.
We're a utility, right?
Yeah.
Broadband. So I was invited to the meeting where all the utilities sat around the table and talk about what if we built this building at a certain location over next to the county courthouse. And so all the utilities are in the room. I always find those fascinating. So if Lon Schrader's watching, he'll get a kick out of this. But if Lon Schrader weren't in a room, the conversations would not go as well.
Yes.
Because his institutional knowledge of what is under the ground is amazing.
Yep.
So we're sitting there all around and people are discussing where our services come in and out. And ours is really easy. It's in the air, you can see it, and it goes to the corner of the building. So my was real good. But when they talked about points of entry for electricity, there was a question. Points of entry for water, there was a question. How many sewer departures there was a question. It's kind of one of my pet peeves, but the reality of it is all this old stuff, there aren't really good mapping available. And if it is, it's rolled up like this and in somebody's drawer, right? Yep. So electronic mapping, we're not there yet. And most communities are not there yet. Yeah. And so here we are. But Abilene, again, I see it as a half full. We have Lon Schrader. And he's still engaged, and every time my phone rings and I see it's Lon on the end, I know it's going to be a factual conversation about making progress, and he's going to know what the heck he's talking about, and he's going to help me understand what I'm talking about.
Yep.
That's a great thing. That's a tremendous asset, that we wave at going down the road or whatever. But, we have, and Lon's not the only one in the community. I'm just using that to say, a project like the new Justice Center, that after the people who vote get together, there is so much work that has to be done and done right.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Done and done right.
Yeah.
We're so blessed in the community to have those people that you don't think about who make sure that things are done and done right.
Yep.
We're in good position.
That's kind of the way it is in all things. Their expertise always below the surface, and it's not the flashy out in front of everybody, but it's where the nuts and bolts get done, and the real heavy lifting and work gets done. And that's true for every organization, every business is that way.
Okay, so the war for man's soul, the I-70 interchange.
Which one?
This one, right straight
Okay.
above us, up
Yeah.
Buckeye.
Okay.
There is conversation that looks pretty real to me about improvements there.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
certainly seeing old decay hit the ground with a wrecking ball and a backhoe.
Right, yeah.
So that's the first start of progress, is you have to get rid of the things that are holding you back.
Right.
And that's happening up there right
Yeah,
now.
you got to clean house.
Got to clean up
And-
once in a while.
And 24/7, you know, and Triplet Inc. They're doing a good job of getting that cleared off at this point, and they're you know, they're following some leads on some potential businesses to jump into that site, and then also something else that's kind of encouraging is anytime, see, I'm one of these guys, I drive around and if I see a flag in the ground, I wonder what that is.
Sure, me too.
And I've seen them enough to kind of, and know what the colors mean enough to kind of get an idea. So, you know, up on the Lafayette Avenue area, there's a bunch of flags up and just north of I-70. And so it looks like somebody's doing some planning up there. which
That's why
would
I
be
brought all
wonderful.
this up.
Yeah.
You know, ever since I been involved with the Abilene community, that interchange has been an issue. I've heard various and sundry stories about, you know, why progress doesn't happen or so on and so on and so forth. And this isn't a show to recount problems. This is a show about positive things
Yes.
going forward, right?
Yes.
2016, and as we look at 2017, it looks like to me somebody's moved some problems out of the way.
There's going to be some vertical construction next year, is, you know, the hopes, and it's all kind of gearing that way. And of course, most recently with Love's looking at purchasing the land out at Russell Stover,
Right.
and getting their zoning taken care of. Certainly positive things there. And at the public hearing at the City Commission, the representative for Love said that, you know, this time next year they want to have the truck stop up and operating this time next year. So
That should bring a few tax dollars.
that's going to bring a lot into town at an intersection that, frankly, it's a prime location. Why it hasn't happened earlier is anybody's guess, but
Here it is.
here it is. And I would just give some kudos out to although it had a rocky start to begin with, the Dickinson County Economic Development Corporation. I think they're, and Bob Mirando, the director right now, is doing a great job in reaching out to the community and doing those things that it's his primary duty. Previously, it was secondary duties for somebody, and so
Right.
it never got done the way it should have.
Right.
And so that's been positive, in my opinion. And also, we got a new CVB director, and she's Julie Roller. She's got her getting her feet wet and
Got a
and
newsletter
learning
from
what's
her this
going on.
morning.
Yep.
Outreach, pictures and text,
Yep, yep.
and a effort to be visible,
Yep.
and to allow engagement. And as we know, that's what works, right? So that's encouraging for me. You and I both broke a sweat a few times for the CT 150 warm-up last summer.
A few times.
Yeah. So we did what we could, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
Yes, we
Yes.
did.
Yep.
The good news was I got to carry a gun the entire time, which being, you know,
Yeah.
Marshall.
The bad news was I got to, you know,
Sweat.
sling sound equipment and get microphones to work. And
Yeah,
cords
and a
and
40
cables and
mile
all
an
of
hour
that.
wind.
Yeah,
Yeah, that
yeah,
was
it was-
challenging. So,
yeah.
but thank you for all of the hard work. I know that comes from both James Holland, who believes in our community, and your job as the
I
Chamber
enjoy
of
it.
Commerce
I enjoy
director.
it.
But you know, I know Great Plains Theater has an exciting 2017 wound up, getting ready to pull the trigger on.
Yeah, yeah.
Live professional theater, live music, all sorts of other engagement things, playing games on Thursday nights. All of that is going well, and almost all of that, other than the plays on the stage, is new,
Yeah.
and it's all working.
Well, and I think that's this is, and I'm not going to speak for the theater, obviously, but if an outsider looking in or somebody who's been in the facility often enough, you know, all the plant and equipment's there now, and it's programming and marketing and you know, programming. I mean, just the diversity
And those
of
folks
things.
bringing their friends.
Right, absolutely. I mean, if you know, I mean, a movie that just ended at you know, your widespread theaters last week is going to be at the Great Plains Theater this coming week.
Right.
So, you know, that's a very positive thing. And like you said, you know, if you know about these treasures and you want to go to them, bring a friend, talk about it. We at the Chamber and the CVB and of course the Great Plains are always marketing those things, and yeah, it's response.
Well, we've wrapped up
Need to have any help.
2016 on this program because Dave gave me the 2 sign about 2.5 ago. So,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he
Oh,
did.
he did.
But yeah, I think we're out of time, so we're going to end up thanking you for our town, watching our programs throughout the year. We appreciate it. Abilene Means Business, Mr. James Holland over there. We appreciate your support of that, and we wish you grace in 2017. For Eagle Communications, I'm Dennis Weiss. You have a great day.